This video may contain spoilers if you've never played the original Shin Megami Tensei V, so if you're someone either new to the SMT series, or if you played the games before and intend to go into SMT5 Vengeance without having played the original, I might advise avoiding this video because I may go over many spoilery topics, including things that have been shown in the trailers and information, and various theories that have come out of what has been released so far, or teased, for Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance. So please be advised. So you might be wondering, why would someone spend a lot of time crafting theories when a game is about 2 months or so away, right? Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance will be releasing on June 14th, but there's a lot that has been stirring the pots in terms of things released, whether that be in teaser trailers or minimum information released on the website or on Atlus Twitters, whether it be Japanese or the English one, that have got everyone with just bound with questions. And I think the main elephant in the room is the new form for the Nahobino. Now let me tell you about theory crafting itself, because this is an exciting thing for me as someone that's been in gaming for a long time, and I've had a renewed interest in it ever since I started to fully delve into the Shin Megami Tensei series. And even if a game is going to be coming out in a short amount of time, and this has happened, I used to be someone, before delving into the Megami Tensei franchise, I was a hardcore Resident Evil fan for a while, and theory crafting is like the funnest fucking thing that I've experienced when being in the Resident Evil fandom. And, just before a game released, it doesn't matter how soon it released, theories were abound. It was like the fun thing to engage with other people in terms of discussions, to see what sort of like things people could come up with, all the different like connections, just like new insight people had that make people think of things they never thought of before. Trying to see like if what certain points people were right about, what certain points people were wrong about, crackpot theories, the whole works. It was always a fun time, and my favorite thing when it came to a new game releasing, when I was in the Resident Evil fandom. But now I seem to have shifted into Shin Megami Tensei, and man, as someone that's, not only do I have like some insight into, how things are into the games themselves, like on SMT sides specifically, but a lot of the theories that people come up with, this is a unique case too, with SMT when it comes to new games, stem from a source outside of the games themselves, because the games pull so much from real-world mythology. That's a highlight of the series. It's something that features demons or gods, things that exist in the real world mythology and lore, and even stuff that concepts that human beings have come up with. This series features it all. And so when a new game is teased, people are like, oh boy, what sort of mythology are they going to be referencing? What sort of real world? So if you're someone who has like a history or a fascination with mythology and like spiritual beliefs and everything like that, that's something you kind of pull from when you're forming theories for when a game comes out. I don't know if it happens so much with Persona. Definitely when it comes to Persona and like the Persona summons, that the characters get, yes, they also draw from either mythology or books that I've written or things that exist in like fictional media that it references. There are things that people can theorize about that, but I don't know if it's something that can happen as much in Persona that it does in SMT though, because SMT, like I said, it draws so much from mythology, but it depicts things in its own unique way. All these different unique worlds that they use to depict these different situations. So in the case of SMT5, obviously, we have like a new route coming out that's going to take basically a different path and theming, where things are themed towards vengeance. So a lot of the character motivations are themed around that. And you have the whole snake theme as well. Obviously, this is it is ironic because we're in the year of the dragon right now, so there's been a lot of games coming out that sort of have a theme around dragons. And with SMT5 Vengeance, the devs talked about this route taking on seeing things from the snake point of view. So you have a lot of demons that are associated with the snakes. You might have snake gods. There's going to be a lot of connections to snakes. It does seem to lean more, I want to say chaos. You know, SMT has its alignments, different depiction of alignments in each game. They're never, you know, they're not all consistent. I do like it when they're varied, you know, when law isn't a traditional law or chaos isn't like a traditional chaos. I do like it when it's like very different. So in this game, I feel like it's definitely leaning towards a very chaotic theme. You know, there's more destruction, there's vengeance, there's emotions are high, people are angry, people are getting killed, there's sacrifices. The devs themselves said that this particular route has a heavy vibe, a heavy SMT vibe, so it's probably going to feel more traditionally like SMT, where things are very dark, tragic, and very demon focused. This particular route will be demon focused. So when they showed the trailers, people have a lot of questions. Obviously the first trailer and the introduction of a new character named Yoko, and just with this sort of events going on with Kadetsu, and you have Lilith as well, you basically have them talking about bringing the world back to the way it used to be, and utilizing the Nahobino for this purpose. And so, you know, people already were trying to form their theories about that and this Yoko character, which I may go over either later in this video or a separate video, because that's a whole other thing. Not quite as extensive as what I'll be covering in this video, but I do think it's important to at least sort of throw thoughts together of my own and what I've seen of other people about this Yoko character that we've seen being, basically you're taking her out where she's kind of a focus in a way with vengeance. So it will be interesting to see, sort of go over the theories on her and what is correct and what isn't. But the second trailer that they released for Vengeance just really like threw everyone into a world of confusion, because we have a new Nahobino form, but it resembles someone that maybe we didn't expect to have the main character fuse with, which is why people are like, I need an explanation. What is going on here? Why is he the way he is? Like, the thing is when I was watching it, and I will include a link to my reaction video to the second trailer, but at first I kind of thought he looked a little like Demi-Fiend, but then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. He's got to be this person. He must have fused with this person, but why? Why did he fuse with this person? That's the thing. And what caused him, what events transpired to lead to him having to fuse with this person? It's very fascinating to me. There's so many theories. It's the whole thing surrounding the Nahobino is so many layers, and I think without clear information about, you know, Nahobinos and the whole thing with like the human being the knowledge and demon being the life, and the whole complexity of fusing together, the whole thing with compatibility, because obviously that's a lot broader than it seemed initially, because we thought, oh, well, they're only compatible with one demon, and they fuse with that demon, and that's it. No, it's much more complicated with that, and I feel like perhaps I would like to get better clarification of those things in Vengeance, but I think because of some execution of story and the way information is, and certain information may be missing from the localized version of SMT5, and some information only being present in, like, say, the Japanese version or the Japanese official guidebook, people have had to piece things together, and it almost feels like what people have to do when, you know, I'm a fan of the Souls games too, alongside Resident Evil and all that, and when you have a game that it is more on the minimal side of storytelling, people have to basically pick things here and there, or basically try and look at what's implied in terms of information and trying to form a story around that. So I'm really hoping Vengeance answers these questions, because I really don't want to have more questions, be left with more after the game is over. I'm a little worried about that. I would like some answers to things, for sure, but we need to address this particular creature here, the new Nahobino that we will be becoming basically in SMTV Vengeance. I want to discuss my theories on that, who he's possibly fusing with to create this form, why perhaps he's becoming this being. A very cool being, I will admit. This is I believe the design of it is very cool, but let's get into it. So, Tsukuyomi, what are the physical observations from what we've seen? His head is that of the main characters, Shin Megami Tensei 5 protagonist. He does not have a name yet, but we call him Shin-V. It is the head, it is more like the head of the human form, because he seems to have the same short hair, not the long hair of what I'm going to dub Susano Nahobino. In comparison, it is short hair like the human form, and it is white instead of blue. He is wearing a snake mask. We don't know the significance of it basically looks like snake fangs on the mask, but we don't know if it's supposed to be a snake or something else, but I may go over that later. The armor, most of the armor is very obviously reminiscent of the Nahobino Tsukuyomi, which if you played the original and you did the route where you fight that form, you will notice how very closely it looks to this particular Nahobino form, this Tsukibino. There are some differences though. You may notice that instead of... I will do an observation of Tsukuyomi, but it seems to have aspects of the Susabino's armor mixed into the armor of the Nahobino Tsukuyomi's body. So it's a very interesting mixture of things. If you look in the video, they do show some of the skills. A lot of them seem to be based on moon phenomenon. So very moon-based here. That's why I dub him Tsukibino. He looks very much like Tsukuyomi, except for certain aspects that are reminiscent of the human form and the Susabino form. And one other thing is that we do see him... There's a picture in particular that's on the SMTV Vengeance website where they show the new form standing in the Joan University laboratory, which Koshimizu, or otherwise known as Tsukuyomi, is head of. And specifically, Tsukuyomi was in charge of, he was able to oversee the maintenance of Aogami and the production of the Aogami units in that laboratory. So he's someone that is also there. So that is another connection to Tsukuyomi as well. I think all of these line up pretty much with basically pointing him to most likely being a Nahobino formed out of the main character fusing with Koshimizu, the Prime Minister, also known as Tsukuyomi. So we're going to examine Tsukuyomi here. Thank you, Yuki, for modeling Tsukuyomi. But as you can see, they're very similar patterns. It almost seems exact to what Tsukibino has, honestly. Like with the outfit, you have the armor on the outside, the very similar patterns on the chest. There's like an undersuit, which people have been memeing about. If you'd like to turn around, because we need to show people that. Yes, there's the backside butt, which people brought up at least the backside of the suit and the front side of the suit is reminiscent of Surf from Digital Devil Saga. Because Surf's suit is kind of interesting. I don't know if it's ninja-esque. So yeah, the backside and the front side, honestly, it's almost one for one, except there's some glowing outlines, and obviously the top of the armor on the Tsukibino resembles what the Nahobino is, and he's got like a small mask compared to Tsukuyomi's Nahobino form. And of course, like the body size is obviously fitted to what the main character's body is. So Tsukibino's arm scythes, or arm blades, if you want to call them. Well, they're not really arm blades, they're finger blades, because just like the Nahobino, his fingers actually, turn into blades. Kind of like the Nahobino's fingers become a sword. But they seem reminiscent of the scythe that the Nahobino Tsukuyomi form has as well. They're just coming from the fingers instead of being like a separate weapon. Obviously, Tsukuyomi has longer hair. We're not quite sure why the Tsukibino has short white hair, but the white seems to be a feature of Tsukuyomi as well, the white hair. He doesn't have long white hair, Tsukibino. He has his human form's haircut for some reason. It's possible that the longer hair is tied to compatibility with the demon that they're fusing with. So I assume maybe, the regular Nahobino with Aogami, the main character is more compatible with him. So the longer hair is maybe a feature of their compatibility, just like Yuzuru and Koshimizu would make a Nahobino that's, more compatible and more powerful, perhaps. Now you may ask yourself, why Tsukuyomi? How Tsukuyomi? Isn't the main character compatible with only specific demons, those who have the bull knowledge, right? Well, the whole thing with the knowledge is quite a complicated matter, it seems, with when it comes to who the main character is compatible with. Because we learn in the original game that there are definitely other demons that are associated with bull gods, or bulls themselves, that also try to, or basically want to take the main character's soul, remove him out of the Nahobino, the Susabino, and take him for themselves to use as their knowledge, so that they can also become a Nahobino. And we've seen that he's compatible with, in the game we have Baal, Susanoo obviously, which is Aogami, and we have Zeus. There's also Belphegor, Moloch, who else can I think of? I guess by extension Beelzebub. There's a whole thing with like the different interpretations of Baal, where he's actually like, another interpretation is he's Belphegor, another corruption of him is Beelzebub, and then you have Gozu Tenno, which is supposed to be, intertwined with the lore of Susanoo. So there's so many different gods that you could make connections to that could be potentially compatible with the knowledge that the main character has, right? And we've seen with the Nahobino, and the whole lore with the Nahobino, what we've been able to pull from the first game is that you can't just straight fuse with someone that's your knowledge. I think there's a matter of cassette, actually. In the case, now I don't know if Lamu, we've seen what happened with Lamu. I don't know if Lamu is supposed to be 100% compatible with Sahori, but there's definitely an element where you have demons who learn that a human being is their knowledge, and they may be, someone who's fully compatible with them or not quite compatible. And it seems like if they're forceful about fusing with the human, things can go wrong. And there's also things such as the Mimin that exist in the game, which are basically failed Nahobino fusions. Now, those seem to occur when the previous creator, which the creator that reconstructed Tokyo using the Shikanai glory after the whole like conception apocalypse thing happened. Basically, because of that creator, the Nahobino that existed were split, of course, into knowledge and life, humans and demons, and they were forbidden from fusing together. Now, I don't know how exactly the creator prevented the fusions from happening. Maybe because things can still, even if the creator that prevented those fusions is gone, things can still go wrong when it comes to the knowledge of human beings fusing with the life force of a demon. Things can still go wrong. Even if you found like your knowledge, that doesn't mean you're going to obtain a perfect Nahobino form. There's a big theme of union when it comes to the Susabino, and him basically being, it seems like he's maintained, is somehow, he's very compatible with Aogami, who is supposed to be like a remnant of Susanoo, and so they're able to get this like ideal fusion, this ideal form of Nahobino, which also happens to be quite human-like in a way, and that may be because of the whole thing with Protofiends, which I will go over the whole thing with that, or it may be this whole element in SMT5 where they're trying to push the theme of trying to retain your humanity. So there's also the thing with Nahobinos where some of them end up, and this is the thing too that can go wrong, you may end up with a Nahobino that just is completely demon-like, very monstrous. And that's what people have wondered, is why does the main character's Nahobino, and probably you have other ones, Tsukuyomi is human, is a bit more human-like than the other Nahobino, and then you have Tao, which we're not quite sure if Tao is supposed to be a Nahobino, but she does look like one. You know, in the original game, there were special circumstances with her, where I think it's implied that maybe the entity or demon that she's the knowledge of didn't, like, they lost their body or something. Some people think that she's a Matarasu, which I'll go over later when I go over the Yoko stuff, but she may have ended up as like a special Nahobino where she lost her humanity, so she's mainly just the demon form existing, like taking over her body after she was killed. But basically you do have the element where, depending on who is the dominant force in the Nahobino, may determine how they look. And I will mention this regarding the Tsukuyobino too, because it's very interesting as well. But in regards to the Susabino, with you fusing with Aogami, he looks human-like. A lot of the other Nahobinos, and they seem to have good compatibility too, like the different ones, the main ones that you encounter outside of the Lamu stuff. They seem to have good compatibility with their knowledge partner, the demons, but they end up looking very monstrous, and that may be because of the specific relationship that those demons have with the humans. Maybe in a lot of those cases, the humans are just letting the demon take the wheel, and that's why they look the way they do. I don't know why that's the case in between Nua and Yakumo, though. It's like, it did seem that in the case of Nua's very monstrous form that they take, they end up becoming a big dragon thing. But I always thought that Yakumo was actually the very dominant one in that relationship, and it's strange that the Nua's form ends up being a giant dragon. But it just maybe... All those different forms probably just reflect some, like, symbolic stuff about the relationship between those demons and the humans. Now, with this case here, if this is, you know, the main character fusing with Tsukuyomi, Tsukuyomi's previous Nahobino form, where he's fused with Yuzuru, is still very demonic looking. He looks very demonic and robotic looking. He's still more human, but he's definitely, like, you know, a big dude. He's very, like, he still has kind of like a mechanical look to him compared to, like, you as the Susabino. And I still kind of had the thought that Koshimizu was being allowed to be the driving force in that. And of course, it's possible Tsukuyomi's actual demon form, which we don't know what that looks like, is probably more human than some of the other demons that end up fusing with their human partners. So that's probably why, even in his Nahobino form, and even if he's the driving force, he still looks relatively human, just more on the mechanical side. Now with the Tsukibino, he does resemble more of the Susabino, a Susanobino, but he has Tsukuyomi's elements, like elements of Tsukuyomi's body, which I find interesting because you would think, just like in the case of the Tsukuyomi Nahobino, when Koshimizu fuses with Yuzu, you would think in this case too, Koshimizu would be the driving force, but it seems like whatever circumstances lead to this particular form happening, Koshimizu allows the... If this is... I'm pretty sure this would be Tsukuyomi fusing with the main character. So when I mention things, I'm talking as if this was the case. But it seems like Koshimizu is allowing the main character to be the dominant force, this consciousness that drives this particular form, and he's basically allowing the main character to borrow his power, from what I'm theorizing here. But we need to ask, how is this possible though, because of the whole thing with compatibility? Tsukuyomi's not a bull god, is he? What is a bull god? What counts as a bull god? That's the confusing thing, because obviously gods and demons that don't specifically look like bulls are considered bull gods. It seems to be a lot broader than, what we initially thought. And honestly, with the way the devs talked, when they had that big, there was a long video where they talked about the development and the themes that they're trying to achieve with Vengeance. There's a whole theme of the bull god versus the snake god. And really, if you look at it from a very broad view, it seems like basically what we have here is the hero or the creator god versus the snake or the dragons. The hero that slays the snake. That's what it seems, which is a very common theme and a lot of legends and lore, and it's something that's it's basically archetypes that are widespread throughout different cultures that have been the basis of a lot of lore and mythology when it comes to gods and demons, especially ones that are form the basis of a culture's beliefs. Say you have in the very ancient times of their lore, you had someone that was a hero or a warrior god or a creator god that before things were formed on the earth, you had a monster snake or a monster dragon, and you had maybe a damsel in distress or a goddess that had to be saved, or a princess even. This is very common throughout a lot of cultures, this particular theme here. And it's funny that I'm bringing this up in the Year of the Dragon, because there's actually a lot of other games that are coming out that deal with this particular theme and cycle. If you are a fan of Dragon's Dogma, for instance, if you haven't played it, I don't want to say much because I don't want to spoil the lore, the backstory of the game, but it does follow this particular cycle and theme. Ironically, since it's coming out, the second one came out in the Year of the Dragon, but this whole theme of the hero who has to slay the dragon and save the princess or save the damsel in distress. And I almost feel like this whole thing with the bull god versus the snake god is based around that whole thing, around those archetypes. Because that's something that's existed in cultures and been a backbone of a lot of stories for a long time. So what if it was the case that the main character's knowledge is actually one... this is sort of a crackpot theory too. Sure, he could be compatible. I have to mention, there's so many reasons why this can occur, why he might be able to fuse with Tsukuyomi. There's one that's mythology related, and there's one that's completely outside of that's tied to stuff that is in SMT5 specifically. The lore reason I think is it may be possible that the main character has the knowledge of, in a very broad look at it, just has the knowledge of a hero or a creator god, which, you know, big creator gods tend to get associated with bulls. The hero god, basically. That means he might possibly be compatible with more gods and demons than we thought. He's basically, my crackpot theory, here's my crackpot theory, is that he's essentially, and it would be cool if this was the case, because I think it's something that Atlus could explore and be an excuse to provide more forms, Nahobino forms, because this is, I really like this concept. It's very tokusatsu, I know that. I love the armors, I'm a fan of it. And I think there's a lot that they can do with it. But what if he was basically like the equivalent of the full Arcana in Persona, where, in Persona specifically, you had the main character, for whatever reason, ends up having the ability of the full. So that means he's able to summon more personas compared to like the other characters that end up in his party, which have their like only one. They end up having one specific persona. Of course, these personas, if you don't already know, they're based on mythological figures. They tend to be, whether they're in books or from different countries, like lores or belief systems. They're basically, personas are basically the demons and gods of SMT. You know, it spawned from that. If you don't already know, you know, that's the thing. But the person who is tied to the full Arcana has the ability to summon different personas. He has his own main persona that is specific to him, but he's able, let's just say like his main persona is the one that is more compatible with him, is the one that is basically him, his self, and it's able to have different forms. But he's still able to be utilize like other personas or other demons. What if the main character in SMT5 was strangely enough, an equivalent to that, where Susanoo is the main demon or entity that he is the most compatible with? So it is the one that he has, let's just say, has the most, it would be the strongest to use, right? His Susanoo Nahobino form is the main one that he's most compatible with, is the most in line with, is the most powerful. But let's just say that he's capable of being compatible, but slightly less, with a bunch of other demons, like Tsukuyomi, for example. Tsukuyomi, maybe in some ways, Tsukuyomi also falls under the whole hero bull god concept. He is a creator god. He's one of the three Amatsukami, which all three came from Izanagi, which is Izanagi and Izanami are big time Japanese creator gods. They're the main ones. They're the first, and the three Amatsukami came from them. I suppose another crackpot theory would be, what if the main character had the knowledge, Izanagi's knowledge, which would kind of narrow things down a little bit. But it might like be like, oh well, if he had Izanagi's knowledge, then that means he's actually compatible with more. He's actually compatible with like basically everyone, like all the Amatsukami and everyone that came down the line from them or something. I don't know. I'd like to think that if you have the knowledge of an entity that powerful, like something that's a big creator god, then that would allow you like more like freedom to fuse or whatever you want with the Nahobino thing. I don't know. We need specifics on that kind of stuff. Also, strangely enough, Tsukuyomi, if we're going to continue to talk about lore, Tsukuyomi in lore, he doesn't have a whole lot to him compared to the other Matsukami, but there are stories where Tsukuyomi is interchangeable with Susanoo, where certain acts committed by Susanoo is sometimes said to be Tsukuyomi, or certain things that Tsukuyomi did is interchangeable with Susanoo, which is interesting. So if we're going by lore reasons, there's a lot that they can do there. There's so many layers. We'll see what the specific reason is. Those are, I feel, the mythological reasons why he might be compatible with Tsukuyomi. Now the other reasons has to do with something that they omitted in the English version of Shin Megami Tensei 5, which I don't understand why this wasn't, why this was taken out or cut in the English version, but Tsukuyomi is a protofiend like Aogami. Okay, so I wanted to talk about protofiends because they seem pretty important to the story of SMT5, and I feel like we haven't gotten enough information from the original game beside the side story where you go to save Dr. Nita. But let me explain what protofiends are, basically. Originally, protofiends started out as a synthetic human project, probably 100 years ago by Dr. Nita. I believe they were probably trying to make humans that can live for a very long time or have abilities or something. It's a little unclear in the DLC story where you do find that out, but basically you have a researcher. I believe he works for basically the Bethel Research Laboratory, or the Joan University one. I don't know if they were previously like a different research facility back when he was like younger. But basically, because it was a research product that took a very long time to perfect, he's working on basically like, trying to make false humans, in a sense, like synthetic humans, something that is like a human. That's a lot to undertake. And he basically went to Mephisto. This references the story of Faust, if you're familiar with it. It's the very classic story where someone basically sells their soul to the devil in order to get like abilities or longer lasting life or success, whatever it is. Basically with Dr. Nita, he made a soul exchange with Mephistopheles, or Mephisto, to extend his life so that he could continue working on the synthetic humans. I don't know if they were called proto-humans at the time, what the exact word, I don't remember, but eventually that project evolved into Protofiends. And Protofiends are basically synthetic humans, or their bodies filled with Magatsui. And then the essence of a demon is summoned into them. So in a weird way, this is something I thought about when I played SMT3 Nocturne, like the remaster in the past year. But I was thinking a lot about the mannequins in that, and how the mannequins are basically kind of like, they're like mud puppets filled with Magatsui. They're basically the strong will of humans that have manifested inside of these like human forms that are essentially made of mud or whatever else. They're basically, they are like false humans, but they're not perfect like humans though. They're missing like maybe a soul or something like that. They easily get created and destroyed and used by demons and everything like that. And eventually some of them manage to, get better and like even try to create like a reason for themselves so that they could summon like an entity to like, recreate the world or whatever for mannequins. But basically like that idea of making synthetic humans in SMT5 reminded me of that. So with the Protofiend thing, I was thinking they're basically trying to create I almost want to say something like a demi-fiend, because you're basically taking something that is a synthetic human and injecting it with a demon essence. And the only problem with that, and this is something that Dr. Nita explains in the DLC, is that they're not perfect. They require a human soul or a human heart to actually be like, the ideal, I guess, proto-human or proto-fiend. And it made me think about, they mention this with both the Nahobino and the Demi-Fiend in both their respective games, where they say that compared to when you talk about demons and humans and you take what a Demi-Fiend or a Nahobino is, you're basically like, on the outside, you have the mortality and the abilities of a god, but you have a human heart compared to being a demon or a god. Compared to having a heart of a demon or a god, because having a heart of a human allows you to learn and improve yourself and gradually get better. And that's why, an entity like the Nahobino or the Demi-Fiend, they have a human heart. They're able to continue to improve and get better and get really strong. And when I think about that and what they were trying to do with the proto-human or proto-fiend project, it almost seems like they were trying to create something like a synthetic demi-fiend when I think about it now. It's a pretty cool idea. And if you think about the essence things too, not only humans can create proto-fiends, but apparently gods can actually create proto-fiends too, if you consider someone like Amano Zako. And that's another point I'm going to have to go over because of this whole peculiar fusion nonsense with the Tsukibino now. Basically the main character possibly being able to fuse with Tsukuyomi, who also happens to have a proto-fiend body as well. And he has a proto-fiend body. That's something that they actually didn't mention in the English version. They left out, unfortunately, because of localization. But in the Japanese guide and in the Japanese version of the game, Koshimizu, or Tsukuyomi, mentions he has a proto-fiend body. And Susanoo, his brother, his younger brother, Aogami's body is basically based on Tsukuyomi's body. So I wonder if, with all this, the thing with the Tsukibino, I'm actually wondering if there's some weird compatibility, completely separate from the demon essence stuff, that allows anyone that's paired with a protofiend or allows protofiends to be able to fuse together. I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if the whole protofiend thing, the whole research about that in their bodies, allow them to kind of be easier to fuse with compared to, like, say, if a human tried to fuse with an actual demon. Like, maybe something about their bodies. Maybe it's because they're supposed to be more human-like. Maybe there's something about that allows them to be more compatible with the main character, no matter who it is. Because obviously, we have a thing here where the first protofiend from that project, I assume, is Tsukuyomi. And then Aogami units were cloned and created from Tsukuyomi's body. And his brother's essence was injected into them. Like, he figured out a way to revive Susanoo through Aogami, and they made a bunch of units of that. Amano Zako, which is a weird case, is a case of a protofiend being made not by the research facility. The information's not as clear as I'd like to be in the original SMT5, but basically, Amano Zako is a small protofiend created from, it's implied created from parts of Aogami. It's probably one of the units that fell in battle, and maybe the parts were still around or something. The Tengu in the game wanted to create a great Tengu, so they took parts from an Aogami unit, and I don't know how they created Amano Zako from the parts. I have no idea. I don't even know what the fuck he's made out of. I don't know what their bodies are made out of. Like, what the fuck are they made out of? Are they, like, metal, or, like, skin, or things like the mannequins where it's, like, some weird synthetic material, maybe, that's easy to, like, reconstruct? I don't know. But the Tengu took parts of Aogami, recreated them to make Amano Zako, and, she does say in the game that she's also compatible with the main character, and she does clarify later that it's because you, as the Nahobino, have a protofiend body, like, with your fusion because of Aogami. So, essentially, what the deal seems to be here is that anyone who has a protofiend body that eventually came down the line from Tsukuyomi's is compatible with you, I think. We haven't seen any, like, suggestion of a fusion, like, for Bino fusing with Amano Zako, so I don't know. Amano Zako is also, in lore, in mythology and lore, she is the daughter of Susanoo. Basically, Susanoo vomited out his violent emotions, and he basically gave birth to her by vomiting her out, and, she became, she's a Tengu, and she's basically the mother of yokai. She birthed many obnoxious yokai, some very violent ones. That's why in the game she has, like, a particular behavior about her, and she's very mischievous. But yeah, she's essentially his daughter by, in that way. So essentially, she's still tied to him, even if she has a Protofiend body and, you know, has the essence of like a great Tengu. She's still essentially tied to Susanoo, so that would also, in a second way, make her compatible with the main character. Tsukuyomi, the stuff with Tsukuyomi is still, we still need to find that out. So 2 things I wanted to bring up before I conclude on the Protofiend thing that Yuki actually reminded me of. 2 things. When I was bringing up Protofiends essentially possibly being synthetic demi-fiends, you do in SMT5, just as a little comparison, it's kind of interesting, but throughout the game, you come across essences of Aogami, which, you know, are probably from the various fallen units. They're all numbered too. Those essences, when you use them, they kind of act like the Magatama from Nocturne, where, you know, you can gain skills from them and everything like that. I guess that's one like other thing that sort of ties it together. Like Aogami, it's basically like the body. You know, you have the body, but then like the essences themselves kind of are similar to the Magatamas. So that in some way you have something that has a human-like body, but it is imbued with an essence that is, you know, might be similar to the way you'd utilize the Magatamas in Nocturne, making it like somewhat similar to someone being a demi-fiend, I suppose. Another thing that was brought up, I did bring up how these synthetic humans might be comparable to mannequins in Nocturne, like how they are basically like these human-like bodies that are filled with Magatsui. And in Nocturne, they're made of mud. They're essentially, they're implied to be made of mud, and then they turn into mud or some kind of weird mud stuff. But an interesting thing in SMT5 to consider when it comes to the lore and creation stuff is that humans, that's one thing, is that not in just lore with like if you bring up Nua, for example. Nua is a creation goddess, but this is also something in Christian lore too, is that humans in various religious lore were also created from the mud and made into, like, you know, given bodies and everything like that. So I thought it would be interesting to mention that in relation to all of this. We still don't quite know what the Protofiends are made of, but it is interesting to compare them to the mannequins and the demi-fiend from Nocturne as well. So I want to do a little observation on Aogami since he's here. Point out different features of his form in particular. I don't know if all Protofiends were designed to look a particular way. I do think they're meant to be human first, and maybe either their demonic essence that's put into them, or they have armor added to them, and specifically in like the Aogami unit's case where they were meant for combat. But I find it interesting with Aogami's armor, at least, and this is something that's pointed out. He does have a body. The red Magatsui lines that are around his armor resemble sort of a circulatory system, and sort of like they seem like that and lightning bolts in a way going throughout his body, and even the back too. Obviously, he has a very recognizable looking S on his chest, and that was implied to be a reference to Susanoo. People have mentioned the mandible or the jaw armor on him may be something in reference to dragons. Susanoo is a dragon or snake slayer. That's a point I wanted to bring up about the Tsukubino, because people have mentioned they were very confused because the body of the Tsukubino looks like Tsukuyomi, but his mask has looks like he has snake fangs on it. So it's like, that's causing confusion, because it's like, okay, he looks like Tsukuyomi, but why is there a snake there? We don't quite know, because there's a lot of snake lore going on in this game, it seems. It's very themed around snakes, but just because someone is wearing, let's say Susanoo is wearing armor that incorporates elements of a dragon, or someone is wearing armor that incorporates elements of a snake, that doesn't mean they're necessarily a snake or a dragon. They could be a slayer of such too. That's a thing in like games and like fictional media and stuff, where let's say you have a knight or a dragoon, they wear like dragon armor. That doesn't mean like they're aligned with dragons or dragons themselves. They could be, that might mean they slay dragons. So it's hard to know for sure though. We don't quite know yet. Let's check the back armor here. One cool thing I don't know if people pointed out is that on the back of Aogami, in the very center, looks like a sword. It's not quite the sword, the multi-bladed sword that he's usually seen. There's actually two different swords he wields. One of them has the multiple blades on it, and he has another one before he slays Orochi. I don't remember the name of it. But yes, he has a sword actually right in the center of the back. And on his shoulder blades, he has wings, and this is something that Doi had actually commented on when he was doing his character interviews. I don't quite know the significance of the wings aside from maybe his connection to Tengu, because Susanoo, following after like the lineage of yokai and entities from Susanoo, you have a line of like Tengu because, you know, Amanazako. And then if you follow the design down to the coattails, this is something else that Doi pointed out. It looks like he's kind of wearing a white suit, in contrast to his brother, who is also wearing like a black suit, but they also look like swallowtail, like from a bird. I forgot the specific bird, but there is a bird that is symbolic in Japan for its loyalty, and I think it might be tied to Susanoo or one of the shrines that he's at, but it's a type of bird that kind of has this tail on it. I guess it might be just called a swallowtail bird, but it has like a split tail like this, and it also is like white and has hint of black and blues on it. I hope you enjoyed that spiel about Protofiends. I went on for quite a bit. But the thing is also is that if you're looking at this whole fusion thing outside the mythological stuff, if you take into account the weird case of Protofiends. Protofiends are fucking weird. I find them very fascinating, but there might be something in relation to how the Protofiends are made, how they work, that allow someone to be compatible with them. So if Aogami, you know, Susanoo, the younger brother of Tsukuyomi is the older one. Tsukuyomi, like I said, I think he's probably the earliest Protofiend that they made. He's not his original self. There was a thing that happened during the apocalypse, or the conception, that basically wiped out most of the Japanese gods, including most of the Amatsukami, and I guess there was enough left of Tsukuyomi where they could like shove his essence into whatever like they had of the Protofiend project back then. I don't know if he was the first, or if they experimented with Protofiends before, but basically he was shoved in a body and became a Protofiend. They did make him look very human-like, and you have to consider that the Protofiend project started out, like I said in my spiel about it, they start out as humans first. It's a synthetic human project, so one reason why Koshimizu, or Tsukuyomi, probably looks extremely human is not only, you know, he was being put in place to serve as the prime minister after shit had happened. He's also like, you know, someone that was put in the body that was meant to be like a human, a fake human, basically. And when he did, I guess when they created the Aogami units, there is I believe he does mention, at least in the English version of the game, that Aogami's body is based off of his own body. Aogami, of course, looks very different from Tsukuyomi. They are considered twins, but if you put them side by side, Aogami's obviously a big, bulky dude. And I don't know if that's just because of his armor, but he's definitely taller. Muscular-wise, he's definitely bigger. There's various things. I don't know about the armor on Aogami specifically, like why he has it on him. Like I'd like to think that like if his body was based on Tsukuyomi, then Aogami's like body underneath that is probably like human-like, right? But maybe when the Tsukuyomi clones are injected with the essence of Susanoo, like whatever they fucking whatever was fucking left of them, because you have to Susanoo and Amaterasu and like everyone outside of Tsukuyomi fucking died. And in the maintenance stakes, they have this lab area. I brought up, you know, him being shown the lab and everything. The lab area is very important because, of course, in SMTV you do see that Aogami has to get he has memory data that's damaged. So when he comes across you and saves you in the beginning of the game, he has a problem remembering things. And I still think even after some of his memory data is damaged, he doesn't quite it seems like he doesn't really have a memory of who he was as Susanoo. Tsukuyomi has. However, that's another point that I'll bring up, is that Tsukuyomi, compared to Aogami, Tsukuyomi seems to have memories of who Susanoo is, compared to Aogami, who doesn't fucking know who he is. He's basically, unfortunately, Aogami is like a combat unit. He was programmed to do a specific thing, and of course, you know, we kind of, it's implied, or we find out that like the specific model you end up with, that you end up fusing with, was tampered by Lucifer, and that's why he disappeared for a while in previous events. Is Lucifer probably reprogrammed him a little bit and also allowed him to become Nahobino. He basically found you and then, you know, had the knowledge by Lucifer's hand to become a Nahobino with you, basically performing a forbidden act. So last thing I want to talk about are the events that may lead up to this form being created. And in the first trailer, we learned that there are 4 wives of Samael, led by Lilith, called the Kaditsu, that basically want to bring the world back to its former glory. And to do this, they mention that the Nahobino, the Susabino, is the key to the resurrection. So it seems like they're trying to gain, they're trying to get a bunch of sacrifices and probably like life force energy and souls and everything like that to bring together. And it's seen in like illustrations and also some of the cutscenes in the trailer and like dev interview footage that they showed, but they seem to be drawing stuff into this giant ball. Maybe it's like an egg or something that is being used to summon a you know, a great demon or a mighty entity or something to accomplish their goal. And of course, in the second trailer, we do get a glimpse of a snake-like entity with multiple heads that sort of resembles Orochi, or it could be Samael. We're not quite sure, but this particular thing, if we piece different parts of the trailers together, this thing is bringing about another apocalypse. Basically, it like shoots out. They have it. They manage to summon it, and it shoots out these beams that basically just nuke everything around them. And I don't know if these events are going to change depending on like what route you take. Like if you make certain decisions to prevent like the thing from being summoned or from nuking things. But the basic gist of it is they want to, and this is something that is shown or implied in the second trailer too, is that the Nahobino is a necessary sacrifice for whatever they're trying to accomplish with bringing back this like previous version of the world. Maybe it's a world before before that the previous creator got destroyed. Maybe they're trying to bring it back to like maybe when like Baal was around. There's definitely like before the main creator that gets destroyed in SMTV, you do fight other demons in the game that talk about how they used to be, they're basically previous creators that existed and that used to rule. And it's possible the world that Lilith is talking about might be even like older than that, might be prior to, you know, people being put in place as creators, maybe a world of like darkness or something. Lilith, especially since Lilith is someone, depending on what lore you go on, there's a whole thing with Adam and Eve, and Lilith is supposed to be the original wife of Adam, and she was previously in the Garden of Eden, and, you know, expelled from it because she did various things, and then she became like, you know, someone that lorded over demons. One of the wives of Sumail of the Kajitsu is supposed to be the mother of demons. That isn't Lilith, though. So there's another demon of that group that is supposed to be the mother of demons. But Lilith specifically is tied to the whole thing with Adam and Eve. I do see that they're basically combining, and this was obvious in the first version of the game too. You have the whole Susanoo story, the lore of the Susanoo story being combined with aspects of the whole thing with Adam and Eve, like the whole lore and themes of Adam and Eve. And I see that the same thing happening in Vengeance as well. You have like an aspect of Adam and Eve, but it's even heavier on the Susanoo lore stuff, especially since they're trying to get sacrifices, possibly to fuel the power of this like multi-headed snake creature. It seems like both. It's really both. It's like you have Lilith, or the original like wife of Adam, trying to summon like Sumail, who might be tied to Satan, a snake god, the tempter of Eve. And then you have the whole thing with the Susanoo story, where Susanoo has to save Kushinada Hime from Orochi, which is a multi-headed snake that was being given sacrifices in the way of these different daughters that existed. Some earth gods had daughters that were being given as sacrifices to the snake, and that's a major part of the Susanoo legend that led to him being called the hero, because before that he was a shithead. I think everyone knows that part of the story. Before he became a hero, he was a shithead to his sister that caused Amaterasu to hide for a while, and then she had to be brought out by Amenu Uzume, that whole spiel. But after that, after he was thrown from heaven to earth, he got to know the earth gods there and everything. He learned that there was an incident where all these daughters were being given as sacrifices to Orochi, and there was one final one. There was basically one that was left, which was Kushinada Hime. He took her and turned her to a comb and put her in his hair, and then went off to get Orochi drunk. Basically, he formed this plan where he got all this like sake and put it out for Orochi, and all the heads drink the sake, they get drunk, and then he goes and like chops out the heads, and then he chops the tail and finds the multi-branched sword in its tail. I think that's the Kusanagi. I don't quite remember the exact name. And then he takes that sword and gives it to Amaterasu as a gift, basically like, resolving the conflict between them. But that's a big lore thing with Susanoo, and I feel like they're kind of doing that with Vengeance. So the whole thing with the sacrifice stuff, the Nahobino being a key to the resurrection, this world that they want to bring about again. I'm wondering who, though, because the Nahobino is comprised of two parts, right? You have the knowledge of the human, you have the life force of the demon. I want to say that the person they specifically need is the human component, and this is a theory that other people have come up with as well, is that something about the knowledge of perhaps it's the knowledge, I'm not quite sure. It's either the knowledge of the human half or the soul of the human half that they need in order to complete this ritual that they're doing. So they need him to be sacrificed. They do show that happening briefly in the second teaser trailer, and because of that, the Nahobino, the Susabino, sustains like major damage, and so from that, it shows him, he took a major hit, his armor's cracking, he's dying, and then you see a flash of the human component of the Nahobino in a white space, and this is the same white space shown in a previous trailer that Tao is in. We also see that Tao is knocked out, so it's possible that both her, the side of her that's human, and then the human side of the Susabino both got hit by this ritual to sacrifice them. We do know later that Tao's Panagia form, her goddess form, is seen, so I'm thinking that because of this incident, it automatically like triggers that, because in the previous game, everyone fucking dies, like because of the Lamu stuff with Sohori, Aogami, well, the Nahobino, the Susubino gets fucking impaled. And then I think Tao also gets impaled, but her goddess form awakens. A Shin Megami Tensei happens. a goddess revival happens, and the entity inside Tao takes over and revives her, and is able to revive the Nahobino, basically. But because of that incident, her human side is sacrificed. And the goddess inside of Tao basically just kind of takes over her human body, and she essentially becomes kind of a Nahobino. Now, with what happens in the second trailer, with the Nahobino being sacrificed, this is a theory, and it's one that I'm thinking is the possibility, considering we've got maybe something that's referencing the Susanoo lore, is it's possible that the human soul of the Susubino is required for the ritual. So it's basically like the story of Kushinada Hime being sacrificed to Orochi. Now, the snake thing that we see in the second trailer could be like a reference to both Sumail and Orochi. That's what I'm thinking. There is another Orochi in the game that we fight. And it's a demon that can be summoned and stuff, but just like with Lilith, you know, because Lilith is a demon you can get in the original game, but we have a special, you know, story-specific Lilith that shows up in Vengeance as a major character, and then it's possible in Vengeance that a special type of Orochi, or maybe it's the male that kind of looks like, made to look like Orochi specifically for Vengeance's story, exists. So that's what I'm thinking. I think it's both combining elements of the Susanoo story and Christianity, because you have to keep in mind that Lilith was the original wife of Adam, based on whatever lore you follow on that. And I don't think she liked Eve. That's another thing. I am pretty sure she did not like Eve. So you basically have a situation where, and I know this is something that people question because of the gender of the main character, but honestly, given the way the Nahobinos work, and the fact that, like, Nahobinos, you know, they're humans and demons fusing together, and the demon and the human component can be, like, whatever fucking gender. It doesn't fucking matter. Gender doesn't, like, in regards to, like, this shit with the god mythology and everything, just don't think about the gender of the characters, because that's going to make it, like, worse for you when you're trying to comprehend this. Don't think about the gender of them, because generally, like, with the Nahobino, they might be a god of a specific gender, but when you, like, cut them in half and split them into demon and human forms, they might be, like, one of them might be the complete opposite gender of what they're supposed to be. Whatever it is. But, the thing I'm getting here, and I've seen this theory too, is that the main character, essentially symbolizes Eve or Kushinada Hime, but don't look at it from the perspective of, oh, well, he's supposed to symbolize, you know, someone in lore that is a female. Don't look at it that way. Look at it from the perspective that both through the lineage of Kushinada Hime, and you know, why Susanoo had other wives too, okay? It's not just Kushinada Hime, but let's just look at it this way. Through the lineage of Kushinada Hime, from Susanoo saving her, her being, you know, someone who existed on Earth, and then through the lineage of Eve, you basically have people who I want to say represent humanity. Look at it from that perspective. So the main character symbolizes people who birthed, who were the mothers. Let's just say mothers, or people who birthed humanity. He basically symbolizes humanity. This is a point that's actually brought up by Amano Zako when she's commenting on Yakumo and Nua's relationship. So if you look at their relationship, and I guess this is something you can apply to the relationships of the other Nahobinos, you gotta not look at it from the perspective of like who they are gender-wise. You gotta look at it as, what do those characters symbolize? In Nua and Yakumo's case, Amano Zako mentions how Nua, the way Nua interacts or responds to, like, Yakumo's motivations, despite the way he is that you could say their love, or Nua's love for Yakumo, is more so as she is a creator goddess, is her love for humanity. So Yakumo represents a certain side of humanity, and I think that's the case with the main character too. He symbolizes humanity, whether that be like from the side of the Susanoo story or from the side of Christianity with Adam and Eve. So look at it that way. But basically, this person who is very important to that symbolism, I guess, is tied, whether it be in his knowledge or soul, is necessary to be sacrificed to the snake demon, this big snake demon. And I think what happens, this is the theory, is that maybe the sacrifice does happen and the main character is dying, but Aogami or Susanoo decides to use, basically, I believe Aogami's going to pull a Tao, because Tao's like entity or goddess that exists inside of her. In order to bring her back to life, that the entity had to basically like give her the life force or something, but because of that, Tao's humanity gets kind of sacrificed. So I'm thinking what happens with this is that Aogami like probably sacrifices his life force to keep the main character alive when this event of the sacrifice happens. So, you know, of course that's going to cause the Susabino to just break apart. That union is destroyed because Aogami, you know, I assume he's going to be in a state where he's just not functional anymore. Like the body and stuff will probably be around, and that's probably why you see why the Tsukibino might be in the lab area where Koshimizu is, because it is possible, we don't know for sure yet, this is just by theory, but it is possible that, you know, the body of Aogami will still exist. And we do know this probably happened before with the Aogami units where they get left behind, and that's kind of one reason why Amanozako got created, is that the Tengu probably found parts of an Aogami unit and used it to create Amanozako, basically. So his body's probably gonna get left behind. You know, he's still just the bodies of the Protofiends are just like, I don't know, mud puppets. They're like mannequins, I guess. They're probably just like, they're basically shells that have Magatsui or life force or demon essences injected into them. So like when the essence is taken away or the life force is taken away, you just got a body left. So they probably had the body left. There may be other things that are tied specifically to the Protofiend body that they wanted to preserve. You know, I don't know. You know, obviously the Protofiend, the Aogami units are programmed to do specific things, so maybe, you know, the programming is something that they'd want to preserve. I don't know. Maybe there are certain memories that the unit itself has that aren't tied to the essence or the life force of the Aogami units. Maybe that's something they also want to preserve. So the theory is that, you know, Aogami gets fucking, you know, the protagonist is getting sucked out and maybe ends up like dying. Aogami sacrifices himself. The body gets left. They have to go take the body to the lab, and then because, you know, Koshimizu finds out what happens, and then maybe because of the special circumstances of Koshimizu also being a Protofiend and his brother being a clone of his body, maybe that is enough, beside a bunch of other reasons that allow the main character to fuse with him and then basically go take out their revenge for Aogami getting fucking obliterated. It is also implied, I didn't bring up Yuzuru because poor Yuzuru. Oh, that's one big thing that's been brought up is, oh my god, like this is allowed to happen, but what the fuck happens to Yuzuru? You think Yuzuru will allow this? You think Aogami would be okay with this? It's a very complicated situation, but it does seem to be implied in both trailers and footage that they've shown that through, because Lilith and the Kadetsu are very good at manipulating other human beings. Obviously they're like succubuses, they can use their charm and attraction to do it, but they have other means of manipulating human beings, demons, angels. It doesn't matter what it is, they're very good at doing what they do. We do see that Miyazu, who is Yuzuru's sister, Yuzuru, who is the knowledge partner of Tsukuyomi, he cares heavily about his sister, and of course his sister is weak. His sister is also the knowledge partner of Kansu, but we don't really see, because of her physical state, we don't get to see a Nahobino form for her. There's like some things that go on where Kansu wants to basically like give her his life force in order to keep her sustained, but there's complications with that, and you know, with her sacrificing her humanity, if that's allowed to continue, all other stuff. That happens in 5, the original version of 5. But we do see that the Kadetsu are basically fucking with Miyazu, taking her hostage, probably using her to force Yuzuru to take a side, and basically probably manipulating him. The Kadetsu, especially Lilith, talk about the concept, you know, they want to bring back things the way they were. And in whatever glorious world they're talking about, they talk about how the world as it is broken. And there was a thing on Twitter released by Atlus Japan. They're releasing character information, like various character information as they go along. And this sometimes includes new footage and new dialogue for the characters, which give us a little tidbit of information, a little bit more of what's going on in Vengeance. But for Yuzuru's, they released Yuzuru's, and he mentions a lot about how there is something wrong with the world, and that sort of lines up with all the talk of things being broken that Lilith mentions and the other Kadetsu mention with the world. So I'm thinking that Yuzuru gets manipulated really hard. He gets manipulated very badly into taking their side, and of course they have power, and Yuzuru, being more of a chaos-aligned rep as he is, like I know there aren't specific things to say, oh this is chaos, oh this is law, oh this is neutral. They don't specifically say the routes or that, but you know, it's kind of easy. It's a little bit obvious that they lean that way. But given that he's more of a, you know, a chaos-aligned character, and he seems like the type to get whatever power he can, whatever abilities he can to pursue protecting Tokyo or protecting his sister. He's basically someone who's willing to do what needs to be done to get that done. Basically, it doesn't matter if it's like, you know, summoning demons or aligning himself with demons or gaining more power to be able to protect the ones he loves. He will go for it. So I'm thinking that along with being manipulated by the Kadetsu, they're probably going to like warp his sense of things to the point where like, you know, siding with them would provide him more power to do what he needs to, compared to like becoming a Nahobino with Tsukuyomi. That's what I'm thinking, is like, it's like, oh, well, these things are happening, why don't you just become a Nahobino with Tsukuyomi? That would solve a lot, right? You would think that, you know, him becoming a Nahobino with Tsukuyomi would be like, oh, well, now you have power. Now you can protect your sister. Now you can fight, you know, the people who are endangering Tokyo. That doesn't seem to... I don't think that's going to happen, though. Because this exists. This exists instead of Yuzuru fusing with Tsukuyomi. So, obviously, shit's going down with Yuzuru. Something happens with Yuzuru. There's also theories... I don't know if it's specifically implied in the trailers or not, but there's dialogue from Miyazu that suggests that she's also on a path of vengeance, and that's something she did end up with, like, people dying. Maybe that's the case. It's hard to tell with the way, you know, dialogue and stuff is cut up in the trailers, but it is possible that, you know, maybe something happens to Yuzuru. Maybe he ends up dying or being another sacrifice, like he gets manipulated enough and then gets used as a sacrifice for the snake god that the Kadetsu are summoning. And so because of that, now, if Yuzuru dies, well, Koshimitsu definitely has a reason to go on a path of vengeance, just like, you know, his younger brother's knowledge partner would. You know, if you have Aogami get sacrificed, then the main character has a reason to get vengeance. And then if Koshimizu's knowledge partner gets fucking sacrificed, well, then Tsukuyomi has a reason. So they both have a reason to get vengeance for their partners and to fuse together. That's the big theory. That's why I'm thinking what happened. I hope, like I said, it'll be really nice at the game. It clarifies a lot. We're gonna need it. But I'm sure we'll probably get a little bit more. We'll probably even get like a third trailer that will spoil even more. I'm so used to this kind of stuff when it comes to games, especially when I was a hardcore fan of Resident Evil, that the, trailers spoiling a bit too much doesn't bother me quite as much, because with what you see, context with me still matters, so I want to see these events transpire in the game and see all the pieces like line up together. So it will be interesting to see why this is a deal. Why this happened. I want to know why this happened. I want to know all the details about why this is allowed. It's very fascinating to me. Alright, I hope I was able to get everything that I possibly could out of my brain. Actually, no. I forgot one more thing. The Shekinah Glory. I forgot. Now, that's another point I forgot to bring about. One more thing. The Shekinah Glory. This is the thing that's used to restore Tokyo by the previous creator. Now, we do see, when this form is revealed in the second trailer, we see a new dungeon that we are allowed to explore. Some people have said, equated it to either the Amala Labyrinth or Womb of Grief from previous SMT or SMT adjacent games, but basically the area that you're going to be going to is supposed to be the source of the Shekinah Glory's power. Now, the Shekinah Glory has been used to restore things, or revive things, essentially. I don't know if it can create, it creates a false Tokyo, though. That's what it's used for. I don't know if it can revive a perfect copy of someone that died. Maybe it can create like a false version of them, but the main point is that you're going to be going to an area to possibly go to the source of that miracle. Now, you could possibly use that miracle to revive people that have died. Like, say, or people that have been used as sacrifices. Or maybe it can be used to power, or the power from it can be used to, imbue someone that was taken out. Like, maybe it might get used for Aogami. Like, maybe they'll use that to maybe they'll put that power into Aogami, and Aogami will become like a new being or something. I know people, and even me, desperately want to see Susanoo show up, like an actual Susanoo form, like the actual person that Aogami is derived from. Considering all the Susanoo lore references in the previous game and this one, people are saying that, I swear to God, if it would be a missed opportunity if we have something like an emboss that is like Orochi or Sumail, and you didn't have the the original form of Susanoo, or something that looked more like, not Aogami, but like an actual form of Susanoo being the one to deal with that snake god. So there's a theory that like he might, after the Nahobino, the Tsukibino goes to get the Shekinah Glory, the power of it, they utilize that power to not only bring back people that died, but it could be used to basically bring back fucking Susanoo. Because in the I guess there was a conception. I say I guess because, like, I think a conception happened and then an apocalypse. I don't know if I have my information correct, but an apocalypse of some sort definitely happened that destroyed Tokyo. And then they had to use the miracle to make a false version. But because of that incident, that's why the Amatsukami died. Most of them, they got obliterated, and the Japanese gods, and then Tsukuyomi even became a Protofiend. I mentioned that before, but it's possible. I do wonder if the power that the miracle is based on can be used to bring back the original forms of the Amatsukami. Now, that would be fucking epic, if that was the thing. But I don't know if Atlus is going to do it. Fucking do it, Atlus. I would love to see their original forms. I want to see original form Tsukuyomi. And it would be cool, too, to see Doi's interpretations of their original forms, too. I think we can kind of get a semblance of what they could have possibly looked like if you look at, like, the Nahobino forms or like maybe the way Aogami looks. But it would be so amazing if, you know, towards the end, if we actually got to see if the Matsukami were revived using that miracle. That would be cool. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's all I can talk about. I know if they release a third trailer, oh my god, I'm probably gonna have even more theories. I might even have to change what I've already talked about, but hopefully, if you watch this video, if you somehow got through this entire video, maybe this will make you think about things and maybe form your own theories about this. Game doesn't have too long to go to come out. Only 2 months, a few weeks or something like that. I'm very excited. I hope you are too, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it made you think, because it certainly makes me think, and thinking is good.